absolutely insane. You can't read all this and tell me Game Pass is successful. User OGG1993 posted a repost of Nib's repost of the article that was titled Microsoft's Gaming Business Falls Short, Death by Activision by Aaron Holmes. Now, I have to say, we're back at it again with this Game Pass evil narrative. And whenever somebody says Game Pass, if I'm around the corner, you know I'm going to show up, right? Because I think that this particular Game Pass disruption of the industry, according to one of my audience members, is keeping a lot of people up at night. So I go back to Amazon Prime. I remember how, for many people, it was quite unbelievable that the industry had a player that would give you whatever you buy within 2 days of shipping, and you could get it at your doorstep so fast. And Game Pass is basically coming with such a disruption into gaming that majority of our millennials that are commenting on this stuff are basically showing their hands and acting like the boomers did during the Amazon Prime explosion. Now, we're going to look at this particular sentiment. We're going to look at some of the comments that are being posed here, and I'm going to ask a critical question. First of all, this user, Bentech Gamer, says Game Pass is bad for industry as a whole. Game Pass makes people want to wait for games coming to Game Pass instead of buying full price. Interesting. The second comment is by a Razer user. That's their name, Razer. It's perfect for the typical PC gamer where hardware is the most important and expensive, and games should be free or ultra cheap. Of course, it's bad for the industry and not sustainable for developers. Now, at Razer, your comment is absolutely asinine, and it's razor thin on any evidence, seeing as Game Pass has more console users using the service than PC. Again, this is all this fugazi nonsense that goes out the window when you actually take a look at it. This person says it's successful for me. Now that's a consumer talking right there. Because at the end of the day, the consumer is only concerned for the most part about themselves and the benefit that they get. If Game Pass were to crumble tomorrow, I would have had a blast and I would have gotten my value for my money. Simple as that. That is exactly how the consumer should approach a service, in the sense that, is it worth the value for my money? Not worrying about the industry where none of these folk have any skin in the game, by the way. How many of you have ever even downloaded Unreal Engine? Now, let's get into some skin in the game. Again, Nib, I remember I was listening to the spaces where the Turk was asking you if you've ever compiled a game together. You haven't done so. OGG 9093. If you want to really show us that you got some skin in the game, y'all need to get into the developer side, man. All this talk from your little corner saying that Game Pass is whatever, I don't believe you guys, man. I haven't seen anything to make me think that you guys are even concerned about the industry and how it plays out. You guys are just not convincing me, because I have not seen any evidence to tell me that you guys are, as we say, about that life. I also saw an audience member who told me that Game Pass didn't work out for them because they only play 2 games, and that, according to them, they would love the option to be able to just buy games that they want. Do you know what's crazy, though, ladies and gentlemen? The crazy thing is, you can actually buy the games that you want to play on Game Pass with nobody stopping you from doing it. From Xbox, not even from Game Pass. From Xbox, you don't have to worry about it. If you want to buy a game and you choose that that's the best way that you want to go ahead and engage with the game, you can simply just go ahead and buy the game. A lot of these people are acting like Game Pass prevents you, the individual agency of your own decisions and choices, that Game Pass somehow stands in your way if you were to choose to or decide to buy the service. Now, let me expose the hypocrisy that we see here. Ladies and gentlemen, what does Game Pass offer? Game Pass offers you a plethora of games that come to their platform for your subscription service, but now it's slightly different from PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold in their base level, where you got 2 or 3 games every single month. With Game Pass, you have access to a library of games. All Xbox games you have access to as long as you keep your subscription, and then you get their games day one. Now, how does Xbox putting its games on Game Pass day one affect the industry? Let's just say no third-party developer puts their games on Game Pass. Like this article basically said, based on people that were close to the matter, this article, I remember reading it. I read every word. And it said, based on people close to the matter, studios have turned Xbox down from trying to give them a fee to come to Game Pass. Let's say every studio from now on turns Game Pass down from coming day one to the service, right? What's wrong with Xbox saying, if you're in our Xbox ecosystem, we're going to give you two options if you want to buy our game. Before, you used to have one option. You can buy the game and you can do whatever you want. The second option is if you don't want to spend full price or you're not able to spend full price, you can subscribe to our service and get the game. I have never seen a cohort of anti-consumer loving people in my life gather within the same internet, online, cyber radius in my life. They are all so nasty to the idea that Xbox actually offers the best subscription gaming service that money can subscribe for. And that's their big problem. The second thing I want to point out, and will basically expose the hypocrisy, is that Game Pass started out with Xbox's games and entertaining any other publisher who wanted to put old games and even brand new indie developers, because they were investing at ID and Xbox, and they were paying all this money. I think at one point it was reported that Game Pass had paid about $3-ish billion in fees and in all kinds of agreements to developers just in one particular season that they calculated all of it together. I mean, we've been following Game Pass for a long time. Everybody wants to act like they have amnesia now. Well, that's not going to happen. Xbox Game Pass, Microsoft has paid hundreds of millions to developers. Microsoft has shared new data points regarding the economics of Xbox Game Pass, of Game Pass and ID at Xbox. Apparently, they had dumped a bunch of money on developers, and somehow developers receiving money, according to these folk who say that this thing is not good for the industry, this is a bad thing. Now, if these people are not even anti-consumer enough, it is worth noting that these folk have never said anything as to the day one release perspective of PlayStation Plus, with some games having already released on the service day one. But somehow this is not bad for the industry because they said so. These folk are some of the most disingenuous people that you would ever see, because PlayStation will be doing like the same thing 6 years later, but Xbox doing it or daring to do it ahead of time or ahead of schedule, nah, it can never be allowed to happen. Ever. Why? Why would Xbox dare to even innovate? This is a list on the PlayStation Plus subreddit, by the way, of day one, every PlayStation Plus day one release. It's not been one, it's not been three. I was shocked. I was like, man, there's about 12 of them, if not more. And this is how Game Pass started. Those of you who've been using Game Pass for the longest time, this is how it kind of kicked off, right? Because that PlayStation is trying to find ways to leverage partnerships with its own, set of partner developers to try to leverage big day one games. They just don't have the money to do it, which was indicated in their Activision, their Insomniac leaks, that they don't have the money to do it. So somewhere, somehow, the industry is losing its mind. These people are citing hedge fund or portfolio managers who want to see a quick return and are saying Game Pass isn't bringing the return that we thought it brought, because these folk are not here to entertain disruption in the market. But Microsoft absolutely needs a disruption, not only of the market, but of the entire games media, apparently. We need to see you guys reel more, that consumers are eating good. Yeah, let's see you guys complain about it. Good. Please leave all of the digital trail out there to show us that you are anti-consumer at heart. We would love to basically take notes just to know, okay, these are the people that are basically, out here. And if the day you ever show us that you like pro-consumerism, we can easily come out and point out to that regard. Now, is Game Pass profitable? Very good question. Well, contrary to a lot of the belief out there, we saw that, Game Pass was profitable. The contrary beliefs are one like was shown here on this install base forum, where somebody did an analysis in 2023, September 2020th, 2023, around the Starfield time, where they said, I believe Game Pass could be losing around 50 cents for every dollar of revenue. So what were they trying to say here? That Game Pass has 50 cents after revenue? However, it was put to rest when Phil Spencer came out and said that Game Pass is profitable and that he spends about $1 billion every single year or annually adding third-party content to Game Pass. According to a Windows Central interview that was cited here on VG Charts, Phil is quoted as saying, we have a service that is financially viable, meaning it makes money in Game Pass. He also says we put a lot of money into the market, over $1 billion a year supporting third-party games coming into Game Pass. What we see in Game Pass is a service that supports all kinds of games, from the biggest games to the unknown indie games. Remember when PlayStation was making their unknown indie games, but these folk aren't saying nothing. Yeah. Guys, these guys are about to get a January raking over the coals that you didn't know you'd love until you played it. If you're an individual publisher, you really have to think about, how do you get everybody playing my game? All these people out here. Now, by the way, do you know that if you do not believe this statement, then you basically are saying that Microsoft is liable of lying, of which if Nib ever said he didn't believe this statement, I'd have to hold him to the standard that he just set with the Black Myth Wukong developers, where he said that we must defer to the developers. His own words, there's even a voice recording. There's an entire spaces with him saying we need to defer to the developers of Black Myth Wukong, that their game is not letting them actually run it properly with 10 gigs of VRAM. So if that's your standard, Nib, which I'm using in this case, then you must believe Phil Spencer, which my standard is that from a fiscal, accounting, and legal perspective, right? That's mine, but I want to use yours, which yours is actually, quite flail, because anybody can say anything, but I'll use yours just for the sake of it. You guys are frauds. All of you that are saying this stuff, you are fraudulent people, and you are trying to basically propagate deceit. That is the problem that we see in this particular gaming industry. I'm a little passionate about, gaming industry being healthy. But when I see individuals like this constantly continuing to just harp down on, who is this guy that even wrote this article, bro? I'm just curious. It's Aaron Holmes. I'm just super curious about him coming together and writing an article on stuff that we already know. In some cases, there are contradictions, by the way, which if I were to sit there and pick it apart, y'all would say I'm being petty. Maybe the time will come for it, because I'm already seeing comments, basically contradicting some of the things that were stated already in there. But again, these people have no case. They have nothing that they can actually say about Game Pass from a negative perspective. So what would they do? They'll find inroads different ways. Isn't it surprising, guys, that a developer direct is coming very soon? That's going to dump almost all the games on Game Pass. And what we're getting is negative news about it. Every single time. Let's talk about it in a different video. Thanks for watching. Talk to me in the comment section. Peace out.